Hey everybody, Jeremy here with the Practical IT channel. Today we're going to set up Restic on macOS. Restic is a backup program that runs on Linux, macOS, and Windows. You can find the instructions for setting this up on their website, which will be linked down in the description. For macOS, we've got a little bit of a special case, and that we are using Homebrew, and we're going to install Restic using Homebrew. So we just say brew install Restic. And Homebrew is going to go out and do its thing, and it's going to install the program. So now if we type Restic, it is in fact installed, and we are presented with the help file. Now, today's World Backup Day, so I'm starting down a fresh path with backups. I wanted sort of a two-pronged system. I've been using rsync.net, and I want something local that will run on a regular basis, and I want to give Restic a shot at that. So the first thing we need to do is initialize our Restic repository. And we do that by saying Restic init-r for repository, and then put the path in quotes. And it's going to ask you for a password for the repository. And please, you want to keep this safe. You want to have it something you'll remember. And you will need this to restore out of your backup. So make sure it's something you can remember, or you have saved in a password manager. And it should initialize created Restic repository at volumes/backups. So if we were to take a look at that, we will see that there are several files that have been created in this location. Okay, so if we want to run our initial backup, we would say Restic-R. You have to supply the repository. We're going to say verbose. We're going to tell it we want to back up. And the path that we want to back up is our music file. And I'm doing this just as an example because it's the smallest folder on my system, and I will be doing a full backup after this video has concluded. So when we hit enter here, it's going to ask for the password that we supplied earlier. And it will go ahead and run through the backup. And I'll come back when this is done. As you can see, it gives you a little status when it's done. Tells you the total size, the number of files, number of directories, the number of data blobs. So yes, this is getting stored in a binary format, and the number of tree blobs, and the amount added to the repository. Just for giggles, we're going to back up the desktop folder, and all we need to do is just change this to say desktop. And it will ask for the password again. And just like that, our desktop is backed up. Now, we should have 2 snapshots sitting out on the NAS, so we are going to take a look at those snapshots. And we'll say Rustic-R, and we'll say snapshots. And again, it asks for the password. And it shows the 2 snapshots. As you can see, each has a unique ID. It tells you the time and date that it was backed up, which host it's coming from. There are currently no tags assigned. And then it tells you which path is in each snapshot. You can do some interesting things with the snapshots. And you do have to use the Restic command to do this. So we want to take a look at the contents of a given snapshot. So we're going to say Restic-R and the repository name, ls, supply the snapshot ID, and hit enter. Supply the password. And it will list out the contents of that snapshot. You can also, as a shortcut, if you want to view the contents of the most recent snapshot, you can say latest. This will come up with a different list of files because the most recent snapshot we did was of my desktop folder. Again, we enter the password. And it shows the contents of my desktop folder. I am going to add a file to the desktop. And we might as well put something in that. And if we look inside that file, this is the test file. So if we rerun the backup for the desktop, it should just add the 1 file. So as you can see, 1 file new, 1 directory changed, 3 changed, 1 unmodified, 1 new data blob, and added 10 kilobytes to that. If we want to see the differences between 2 backups, we just need to supply the 2 IDs. So we're going to list our snapshots again. Okay, so we can now say Restic-R, use the diff command, which may be new to Windows users, but the diff command on Linux is for comparing the contents of multiple files. And the Rustic developers have included that here. So we want to say, we want to supply the first ID. We'll copy that. And the second ID. Make sure there's a space between them. Enter the password. And it shows you that the 1 file that was added is the one listed here. The next thing we want to do is remove a snapshot. And to do that, you use the forget command. And so you might guess that the first part of the command is going to start out the same. Restic-R and supplying the path to the repository. And then we're going to say forget. And we want to actually forget this one here, because that's the one that's missing a single file. And 1 out of 1 files is deleted. Now, keep in mind that in the place of the snapshot ID if you wanted to forget the latest snapshot. You can use that keyword latest. So just for grins, we will also do that. And then that is also deleted. When you delete a backup with Restic, it deletes the pointer to that backup, but it does not purge the data. And to do that, you've got to use the prune command. And so, again, we start out our command. And then we just say prune. If I can type this morning. And as you can see, it is deleting the obsolete index files, removing five old packs, and getting rid of the unused space. All right, something else you might want to do, especially if you're backing up multiple machines with Restic, is that you may want to tag a given snapshot. And we'll rerun the desktop backup to do this. So we'll say Restic-R, supplier repository name, verbose backup, and then we want to give it the tag and say this machine is Mini 2020, and then the path you want to back up. We're going to say desktop, enter the password, and it will do its thing. And then we can take a look at our snapshots. And you can see that a tag has been applied. Okay. So we take a look at our snapshots again. Provided I can type the password incorrectly. So if you want to restore data from a snapshot, you can absolutely do that. And we would start with our normal beginning of the command. We would say restore. You can do latest, or you can do by ID. We're going to do by ID this time. Supply the ID and give it a target. And we're going to say restore it to desktop. Music backup. If we supply our password, it's going to go ahead and copy all of our files that we had backed up to this particular snapshot into a folder on the desktop called Music Back. And it will take a few minutes to do that, and so I will come back when that has completed. So if we take a look at our restore folder on the desktop, we have to drill down in order to see that. So here's our folder, and of course it includes the full path to your user and then the folder that you backed up. And so it's got all these folders here that would be in our normal music path. So everything is working as expected. We're going to go ahead and remove that from the desktop. And that is no longer there. Okay, so we're good to go there. So what if you want to just run a single command to back up multiple locations? Well, you can do that as well. And you would do that by specifying multiple paths after the backup keyword. So we might want to back up, let's see, movies. Well, that's going to be a big one. Music and desktop. And that should get us what we want. We'll supply the password. And it's going to go ahead and back up our files. Now, the reason that this backup ran so much faster is because Restic does deduplication, where if a file has not changed, it will not be stored more than once. And this is a great thing for saving space in your backups. Okay, but what if we've got a scenario where we have deleted a file off our local system and we want to restore it? Well, we're going to want to look in the repository or the snapshot in that repository for the file and make sure we have the full path to that file name. So we can look at our contents by saying restic-r ls, which is a Linux command or Unix command to list files. It's equivalent to dir on Windows. And then we're going to say latest. Enter the password. And it lists out all our files. So we are going to come up here and we're going to select this file here. We're going to copy that full path and clear the screen. Now to restore, the file, we're going to say restore latest, and then use the target keyword again, and we're going to say desktop restore me, and then we're going to say include, and we're going to specify the path to that file. When you have spaces in your file names or your paths, you want to encase them in quotation marks. And so if we put quotes here, it will go ahead and restore that to the desktop. We'll jump over to the other tab. And now we've got a directory called Restore Me. And we've got our one file that we restored. If you have a case where you want to exclude a file or folder, you use the exclude keyword. I've got the command up here on the screen right now. After exclude, you specify the path, and in this case, we're specifying a specific file we do not want included in the backup. If we enter our password, it will back that up. And if we list the latest, we should see that that file is in fact excluded. So we're looking for a contact file, and it jumps from Clinton County to course design. Contact would be in between those two file names right there. So that did work as we expected. All right, that should give everybody enough to get started with Restic. In a future video, we will be covering doing some configuration so you can run this as a script and it won't require you to enter your password every time. That is where I think this gets really interesting. So if you got something out of this, please give a thumbs up, share the video, feel free to leave comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.